Hello, my friends from around the world. I am Lucy Morris, and welcome to another episode of the FlyingArcher.com, which is sponsored by New England School of Archery and Supplies, LLC. We have an amazing guest for you today, Julie Griggs. Hey, Julie.
Hello.
Hey, Julie Griggs was born and raised in Missouri. Julie has always enjoyed hunting and fishing and other sports. She's married with 2 grown children, and Julie has been a teacher and also an administrator for 22 years in the Missouri public school system. Julie, Julie has had the privilege to shoot for various manufacturers and shops over the years, and she appreciates their support. And Julie holds several state 3D titles and has been on the podium at various regional and national events. Julie is a certified NASP coach, that's the National Archery in the Schools program, and also the co-host of an amazing podcast, the Bow Divas podcast. Yay!
Yay.
We have a lot to discuss. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. And please welcome from Missouri, Julie Griggs.
Thank you. I am so excited to be doing this.
Oh, me too, Julie. I just gave a brief overview and bio. So just sit back, relax, take a minute or two, and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into archery.
Well, my husband actually got me into archery. He had been into traditional archery for many years, and our children were small. And he would periodically ask me or tell me, "You really need to start shooting a bow. I think you would really like it." And my answer to
Oh, cool.
him was, well, when the kids are a little bit bigger, because I didn't want to have to try to find a babysitter for them or try to keep an eye on them while I was also trying to shoot. So once they got big enough to look after themselves, I started um, shooting myself. Not literally shooting myself, but you know what I mean.
It just came in my mind too.
So
The phrase "I shot myself in the foot." I don't know how people do that with a bow and arrow.
right, I don't either, but I'm not going to criticize because anything could happen. So I finally decided that I wanted to start bow hunting. I had rifle hunted for whitetail for many, many years since I was a teenager. So my husband took me to a bow shop, and they had a little used Browning micro adrenaline bow. And we got that, and he set me up with some hand me down arrows. And I think we bought a new wrist strap release for me and started out in the backyard just plunking arrows at a bag target. After, oh, I don't know, a few weeks of doing that, he took me to my first 3D competition. This would have been in about, I think, like July of that year.
What year was that?
Oh my
Do
goodness.
you remember?
I was worried you would ask that. Like 2004, 2005, somewhere in there.
That's good. Yeah.
And the main reason he took me was to get me used to shooting at animal targets and just get some shots through the bow, practicing before I climbed up in
Mhm.
a tree stand to actually hunt for a live animal. And it actually, it wasn't very long, maybe the first couple of local 3Ds that we went to. I think I knew then that I really enjoyed doing that. I liked the competition. And then after I started bow hunting, um, I had the comparison between the two of the bow hunting and the competition of the 3D tournaments. I really started leaning more towards the 3D. I still bow hunt a little bit, but not as much as I used to. We had a lease that we bow hunted a lot, but then we let our lease go. And so we
Mhm.
really haven't had a good place to bow hunt since then. And that's really where it just tapered off. And I'm just really more focused on going to the 3D competitions.
Ah, I like 3D.
I love it.
So Julie and I are going to sit back and talk about archery probably for several hours, I think. No, just kidding. The way we've been chatting like I don't know for about 20 minutes before we started the podcast.
Right.
So if you're listening while you're driving your car, man, hold on to the wheels because I'm going to take the notes for you. And those notes and links and resources will be on my show notes on theflyingarcher.com. Hey, let's start with what kind of bows that you like?
As far as brand or the type of bow, like recurve, compound?
Recurve, compound, longbow, crossbow, slingshot.
Gotcha. Okay.
Shot's not in there. I I had a one podcast guest, D Fox. He was like, "Yeah, you know, slingshot." And they had something else, darts. He goes, "I like anything that flies through the air."
I could see that. Dee's a good guy. he he's definitely obsessed with it, I think, as much as the next person,
Oh
if not
yeah.
more so. Well, I prefer compounds. That's what I have primarily shot. I have
Oh, you're
tinkered.
on the evil side, aren't you?
I am. I'm on the dark side. Yes. I've played with a recurve. My husband actually bought me a inexpensive recurve. This was years ago. He just picked it up from a buddy. He didn't invest a lot of money in it or whatever. But um, I don't know. We just didn't get along. I just my mentality and personality just is more aligned with a compound, and
Hmm.
that's what I started with, and that's just what I've stuck with. I really don't have a lot of interest in recurve or longbow right now. That could change. I admire the people who can shoot them, and the ones who shoot them
It's
well
a
blow my mind away. Yeah,
it's a different animal.
yeah,
They're like two, yeah, very different. Well, same skill, but they're different.
yes, yeah, very much. With my husband being a recurve and longbow guy to start with, I get that just from being around it and from being around him while he shoots. I totally understand that. And he has since crossed over into compound archery, and I keep trying to encourage him to go back to traditional because I really believe that is his true passion and it's his first love.
When you say traditional, you're saying like the longbow or
Long
recurve.
longbow, recurve. Now he is really more traditional with the handmade wooden bows.
Ooh.
He does have a Hoyt buffalo that he enjoys shooting, but he
Hmm.
would go around to competitions and he would shoot his recurve or a longbow with no stabilizer, none of the gadgets. It was just the arrow off the shelf.
Suggest to him, uh, or you guys could do this together, is to take a kudo class. It's a Japanese form of archery.
Uh huh.
The bow itself, I think, is made out of bamboo. It's I'm 5'11", and it's called. I can't remember what the bow's called. It's they have the Japanese name of the bow, but the bow itself is about um, a foot taller than me.
Oh wow.
Actually, if you look at my Skype picture right there, you you see me kind of really intensely my face. I'll have to now put this particular picture onto the blog so people could see it. Um, but the bow that I'm using, that's the form of archery's kudo.
Okay.
Um,
How do you manage a bow that long when you're only 5'3" like I am?
your bow would be a little shorter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As I was when you said you're 5'11" and it's about a foot longer than you, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, there's no way I could handle a bow like that. I'm only 5'3".
Well, you see, that's because you're very much a compound shooter, and all the bows are like the same size for all the different heights people.
Uh huh.
Um, yeah, recurve, the bows are different heights, um, depending on your wingspan.
I gotcha. Okay. Hmm.
uh, but that might really, I would suggest trying that and come back
Okay.
and let me know what you guys think.
I will run that by him and see what he thinks. He will probably be fine with it. He's into that sort of thing, or could be very much so.
It's different enough from recurve that it's a different animal.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I took the class at the Zen Mountain Monastery in New York where they offer all these different workshops, where people come in, and then you actually get integrated into the Montessori. So you actually meditate with the monks, and then you actually work with them, and then you also take the class. It's quite amazing.
Wow, that's fascinating.
I am not a meditating kind of person, so I kind of like had no idea what it was like to sit for 45 minutes without moving and then getting up and then you walk around and you sit facing the other way for 45 minutes.
Okay. I'm game. I'm willing to try it.
But we did that at like 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning, and after that we all went and had breakfast, and I had energy. It was like I'd had like a small amount of coffee to kind of you just have this nice sort of you're awake, you're alert. I was like, really? Meditation can do this to you? Make you actually alert and awake so early in the morning?
Was it really meditating or were you just sleeping?
You caught me there. Well, you have to, well, you can sit in full lotus on the meditation cushions, but I am not that flexible. So I'm sitting there cross-legged and I'm like moving all over the place. And the poor monks, second day, one of the people said, hey, one of the monks said, can you, do you need a chair to sit on? Are you okay? I'm like, fine. So the next time I challenge myself, I am not going to move. I'm just going to sit here. And it was actually easier.
Really?
Yeah, to not move, to not sort of kind of go against the feeling, but just to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
How many days was this?
oh, it was only 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, they have like you can take like a week-long Zen meditation course.
Interesting.
I'm like, I don't know if I could have the self-discipline when I'm there with a teacher hovering over me. Um, and I think it'd probably be very intense and amazing and probably life-changing. Um, but yeah, that's
I get it. I get it. When we were talking a little bit earlier about needing someone to push us, I'm kind of like that myself. So I totally get it.
Now with your amazing compound bow, what color is it and what is your favorite gadget do you have on your bow?
My compound bow is an Elite E35 and it is black. And I have custom strings on it from Doug Hutchison, who lives near the Kansas City area. And he's amazing at tuning bows and building strings. And right now, my favorite gadget on it is probably the LP light that we just added to it a couple of weeks ago. I changed to a different scope and we added the light, and I've added a clarifier because I'm at that age now where things are starting to get a little blurry for me. So I needed a way to clear up the target a little bit so I could see the details a little better. It was a little blurry for me with my old scope, and I wasn't shooting uh, any type of light kit on my bow.
Hmm.
So I have added that. So I really looking forward to getting into a competition and trying that out and seeing how it works for me.
So why aren't you shooting with your eyes closed?
I might do better if I did.
Yeah, because if you when your form is the same way all the time, uh, well, okay, you're compound shooters, you guys split arrows anyways, but then you don't actually really have to think about what you need to look at. Though it's good to have your eyes open so that, if
Right.
somebody wanders around on the range, yeah, keep your eyes open.
Right, exactly. And we
Yeah.
do a lot of compound shooters will blind bail or blank bail, and we
Hmm.
will shoot with our eyes closed. Now we do that at a close distance.
With
And
supervision and someone watching and
well, not necessarily. I shoot in our hallway. We have a target set up in one of our rooms in our house, and I shoot in the hallway, and I will blank bail, and it's only 3, 4, 5 feet, and
Mhm.
I will draw the bow and shoot with my eyes closed and work on my form and just work on how everything feels. So it can be done.
That's awesome. In my apartment, oh my goodness, I'd have to put a net up in front of the huge window, go from the living room back into the kitchen, And I've been thinking about it.
We have actually practiced in the house for many years in the wintertime in our part of the state. There are many days it is just way too cold to be outside, or where we live in particular, it can be very, very windy. And
How cold is cold where you live?
well, it depends. I mean, um, it can get down to 20 below on some really, really cold, stormy
Okay, that's cold.
evenings.
That's
Now, it does,
folks, that's Fahrenheit for those of you in other parts of the world.
right. And I mean, and it's not all the time. Occasionally it will get like that, but that's because the wind is blowing so hard. That's probably
Yeah.
the biggest issue is wind chill around here. And so we will set up from our kitchen, our laundry room to the target where we shoot. We could probably get about 13 yards out of that.
Oh,
If we went out into our garage, obviously we would get more distance, but our garage is not heated. So,
oh, burr.
yeah, so we work on things inside the house. And some of my non archery friends think we're crazy for shooting in our house, but actually, at least around here, it's more common than I think some people would realize. A lot of people shoot in their houses when they're really hardcore.
I I was talking with, level 5 coach D who said, yeah, you can have your students shoot inside their house.
Hmm.
Um, but of course, need to make sure cats, dogs are,
Right,
somewhere and people are aware that to not be opening certain doors or, make
right.
it a safe inside environment for it.
Absolutely. And we did it when our children were still living in the house, and it just became a habit that if we thought somebody was shooting, we would holler and ask, "Are you shooting? Are you clear?"
Hmm.
And so we made sure that we communicated with each other so no one would get hurt. And other than a hole or two in a wall, everything's been great.
I have a client that I work with, and he shoots from in his kitchen through into the living room. But when he first set up his inside range, he shot in the other direction, and the refrigerator sticks out a little bit.
Oh, hmm.
Yeah, he's got a nice little, not a little, quite a mark in his refrigerator door.
I can identify with that. We haven't shot our refrigerator, but we have poked a hole in a wall once or twice.
I mean, usually people go out hunting for the stuff to put in the refrigerator, not to shoot.
Right.
Where where have you traveled for competition as an archer or and as a coach?
As an archer, we have traveled primarily around the southeastern part of the United States. We really love going to the ASA, the Archery Shooters Association Pro-Am tournaments, and they are primarily in the southeast. So we've been to Georgia, Louisiana, we've been to Kentucky. They have one every year in Metropolis, Illinois, which is in the very southern part of Illinois, Oklahoma, Texas. We've gone to Iowa, Nebraska for some other shoots. We've traveled to Las Vegas for the NFAA World Archery Festival, which is a
Mhm.
massive indoor tournament. We have not traveled outside the country for archery, but maybe we will get to do that someday.
There isn't an ASA shoot up here in the Northeast, is there?
There is not. Now, there are IBO competitions in
Mhm.
the Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia area, and I would like to go to some of those someday, but ASA pretty much is like I said, it's in the southeast.
Ah, what is the craziest weather day you've had that you've ever shot in?
Oh my goodness. Well, there were a couple of times at one was a fairly local club shoot, and one was at our state ASA tournament. This has been a few years back. Both times we were pretty much out in the middle of the 3D range, which for people who aren't familiar with 3D, you start on target 1 and you progress to 2, 3, and so forth, and you're walking through the woods. So you can cover quite a bit of ground by the time you walk an entire 3D course. And
Hmm.
at both of these tournaments, a huge thunderstorm blew in, and you're holding, a metal object with a long stabilizer stuck to it, and it's lightning and the wind's blowing and torrential rain. And so you just try to head for some low ground and wait it out, because there's really nowhere you can go. um, One time
Wow.
I shot at another local club shoot, Marshall Bow Hunters, and they used to do a snow shoot, and that was always in January or February. And I remember one year we had several inches of snow on the ground, and we were out there shooting. And then the other one that I can think of is an ASA at Metropolis, Illinois, which is always towards the end of June, and it was crazy hot. We're looking at 105, 108 degrees, and here are hundreds and hundreds of archers out there, which proves that we're entirely insane out there shooting in that heat. It was incredible. So that's probably the craziest I've ever encountered.
Oh, it's just amazing. You don't think how hot it gets when you're not in the shade.
Yeah. Well, and luckily
Oh,
we were in the woods, because
oh, that's right.
yeah, 3D is now, you might not necessarily at the ASA tournaments, but at some club 3Ds, local 3Ds, there might be some shots out in the open, but most of it is in the woods. But it was so humid and that heat index was so high, and there were people passing out because of the heat and getting overheated. And like I said, we're insane for doing it, but I guess when you're passionate about something, you're not going to let things like that stop you.
So basically, if we work out like we were talking earlier before we started the show,
Right.
then yeah, then working out's actually really important.
Yeah.
Work out during the whole year, and then you can go and actually just outdo all the competitors because you just feeling better
Right.
in the weather.
That's something I need to work on, is working out.
Oh, don't we all?
Oh, well, yeah, some people, I'm sure, but I know myself in particular, I need to. And I know we were talking earlier about, I spent last summer recovering from a couple of surgeries. And so my physical state isn't anywhere close to what I want it to be or where it needs to be. So that's something I'm going to have to work on, and be able to endure that crazy weather and those types of situations.
Yeah, I had no idea how out of shape I was until I went and tried a CrossFit class,
Right.
actually. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I never, I, I, when I was a kid, I'd watch grown-ups like run out of breath, unable to like have the flexibility. I'm like, I will never be like that. I don't know why they're like that, but
Hmm.
I don't want to be like that. And it's like, oh, I've become one of those grown-ups.
Right. The last couple of weeks at school, I've been packing up my room and all of my supplies, and the job that I do is Title I reading, and we have just massive amounts of materials in my classroom because I'm moving to a different classroom. And
Mm.
that has really made me feel my age. I came home from work every day and was just exhausted from doing all of the stuff that I thought I could handle, but it turns out that I can't because I'm so out of shape. Just packing boxes and moving them just wore me out. So, yeah, the physical part, it it's good for you just health-wise, but then if you want to be competitive or just feel good at archery, I think that's something that needs to be looked at more closely and taken more seriously.
You know, I've heard now twice someone say, I feel my age. I think it's not that. I think it's um, us sitting at our computers, driving, standing, um, and not sort of grabbing a bicycle and chasing each other on a bicycle or, hey, let's go like walk up this hill. Our lifestyles have just made it so that we're more out of shape than we realize. At
Yeah.
least that's what I came to the conclusion of. Was like, wow, slowly over time,
Yeah. Well,
I have.
I think you're right. With you saying that, that really, I think, hits the nail on the head. I'm going to go with your explanation of it. I am not old. I'm not feeling my age. I'm just sedentary, and I need to change that.
And I didn't think I was all that sedentary. So I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm a couch potato and didn't know
Maybe.
it.
I well, a couch potato, of course I always connotate that with watching TV, but with technology, I maybe we're technology potatoes now.
Yeah,
Hmm.
now I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. Shh. As long as it's healthy food, right?
Oh, I just got to tell you, in June I have taught like 30 days straight teaching instructor classes, going to camps all over New England. I can certify up to 130, 140 archery instructors. I mean, it's like all out.
Wow.
I'm living, breathing it. By third day I'm tired.
Uh-huh.
By week 2 I'm exhausted, and I have to be like, on my game all the time because I have to like watch these people,
Right.
and I have to keep them motivated and myself motivated if it's like a really hot day or something, because a lot of these are outside. And during that period, I will eliminate wheat because I know how wheat affects me.
Right.
I'll eat more meat protein.
Mhm.
I actually carry food with me. Wait a minute, let me back up. Well, I do carry food. I will stock some food in my vehicle, so I'm not totally relying on the camp that I'm going to for their food, because sometimes I just can't have pancakes and a whole like wheat sugary breakfast
Right.
and then 8 hours of in the sun. I can't do it.
I'm
I,
sitting
I
here nodding my head as you're talking because I can 100% identify with what you're saying.
and you know, awesome. So how does food impact you when you're shooting, or when you're in a competition?
Well, like I said, I'm nodding as if you could see me. But I've just become very more wheat aware in the last couple of years. And some people will say it's a bunch of hooey, but my daughter a few years ago suspected that she might have some gluten issues. So I suggested before going to a doctor to be tested to just run a little experiment of her own and cut out wheat products from her diet. And I did it with her just more for moral support so that she would be more motivated to do this. And within 2 weeks, I felt so much better and my thought processes were so much more clear. And
Oh, isn't that like amazing? It's the
yes,
thought process.
yes.
I can actually do math with less error, hand math,
Uh-huh.
uh, or maybe just calculator adding up, doing bookkeeping. Uh, and yeah, I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, yeah, it was incredible, and my energy levels went through the roof, and this was within just a couple of weeks. And
Mhm.
I have since slacked off, and so has she. But that convinced me that there is something to it, and I'm trying to get myself back into a better routine of eating and more clean eating, eliminating the bad carbs, so to speak, the wheat, and try to focus more on fresh, natural foods and more protein in my diet. Of course, I haven't been perfect at it. I do well for a while and then I'll backslide, but that's another goal for the summer. One was to increase my activity level, and two is to really start focusing more on my diet and what I'm putting into my body.
My nutritionist, good friend of mine, Sarah Bingham, um, her website is fastfoodhealing.com.
Hmm.
It's how to heal fast quickly from
Hmm.
food
Hmm.
rather than eating fast food. And she talks about it like it's honoring our body. What are you putting into your body, and how are you honoring yourself? Um, and that helped me think about it differently, rather than, oh, I really want to treat myself. Well, if I'm going to treat myself with that sugary, delicious looking chocolate trippy, yum yum, I could think about it as, okay, it's a treat, and I'll go run a mile afterwards. I don't run. Um,
I don't either.
or
It,
I like you. Hey, high five.
right on. And I was getting ready to say, even if something's chasing me, it can have me because I don't run. No, it's difficult for me. It's painful. I just don't do it.
My friend actually teaches something called like Zen running. It's not called Zen. It's being mindful. I don't know. I don't quite know what the words are. I have to find out. But it's how to utilize your body more effectively, so you're getting more oxygen. And she said that the pain went away that she used to have. Now she teaches it. No, I don't know. I'm not a runner, and
Right.
I'd rather ride a bicycle. It's kind of faster. I get there quicker.
Right.
And I can go down a hill really quickly.
Yeah,
Hey,
I don't do bikes either, but we have talked about getting bikes and starting to ride those. My husband thinks he would rather do that than other forms of exercise.
you don't do bikes?
No, not yet.
Have you ever ridden one?
Oh, well, yeah, when I was younger. Yes. Not
Oh, good.
as an adult though. No, I haven't gone on a bike ride since I was probably a teenager.
What I find the most enjoyable is having the bike. Well, the bike I have is a Giant, and it has sort of wide wheels, and I don't generally ride it on the road. Um, I'll go on like these different paths, and it just feels safer because you don't have these cars barreling down. And now everybody's on cell phones while they're, driving.
Right, that would make me nervous.
Uh, would you like to do a food pack?
What is that?
Um, Basically, uh, we'll decide to eat healthy and check in with each other.
That sounds great. I can do that. I'm
We're
willing
doing
to do
this on
that.
air.
And here it is out for the podcast world to hear, so now we have accountability as well.
Totally, totally. And it's like both on the Bo Divas and the Flying Archer podcast.
Right. I'm willing. I'm game.
Awesome.
I need an accountability partner. I think you just became that.
Oh, and you too. Awesome. I'm so psyched. I'm so stoked. Yay! It's more fun doing things with people, sort of, playfully.
Yes. Yep, it is.
So, in your changing of, finding out how wheat affects you and different things, has that changed the foods that you eat on a competition day?
It does. I try to avoid things like pancakes and toast or bread, rolls, that sort of thing. And I try to stay focused on more protein based foods. I used to carry, trail mix or some sweeter type snacks in my chair. 3Ders a lot of times will carry a shooting stool or a shooting chair, and it's like a fishing stool. It's two legs with a canvas seat with a storage compartment underneath, and some of them are insulated. So we will,
Mhm.
we carry everything in our chairs, but um,
So cool.
I've tried to move away from like simple sugar type foods and carry more fresh fruit or jerky or something like that in my chair, in addition to uh, trying to stay more protein based in my breakfast for sure in the mornings.
Hmm.
And when I eat supper or something like that, I try to once again stay more protein based and more fresh, natural foods and stay away from the grains. And I think it helps because if you're eating those carbs, those simple sugars, it's going to spike your blood sugar levels, and then you're going to have that crash. And I've done some reading about that. Now, I'm by no means an expert. That's something that I'm in the process of learning more about. But I would notice that our local 3Ds, usually you have two sides to a 3D course, A side, B side. And a lot of times we'll take a break between shooting one side and the other. And they usually have concessions. They'll have hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever they choose to serve. And
D Fox has said that you guys have really good concessions. Not that they're healthy, but
right. And I've noticed that if I stop and eat during the break, that my performance goes down on the
mm,
second side. So I've become more conscious about what I eat at the break, if I eat anything at all at the break. I try to stay away from drinking pop or soda at the break and just stick with water or Gatorade. And my overall performance during the day, I think, is better because of that.
I was just thinking if we took like that information that you just shared with us and thought about how the foods just impact us while we're just going throughout the day when we're not shooting. And if we just want to feel just a little bit better and be a little bit more peak performance, not that we have to be performing anything, like, it doesn't have to be at work to be at peak performance. Could be reading a book. um, that if we became more aware in our life all around, then we'll just feel better.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I'm not going to drink that soda because, yeah, I know I'm not competing this afternoon, but I'll just feel a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll just have an apple instead. It has a little bit of a sugar. I mean, it's natural sugars, and that just gave me what I needed.
Right.
This just came to my head while you were speaking there.
Well, and while you were speaking, what came to my mind was intentional living, conscious, intentional
Intentional living.
living. Mm-hmm.
Conscious, intentional living.
Right.
I love conscious, intentional living. I love it.
I've been doing some reading about things like I don't know. I'm pretty eclectic in my reading choices, but I've kind of gotten on a little bit of a roll in the last few months about intentional living and setting goals and finding out or deciding what your one main thing is that you want to live for. And so a lot of times here lately, my thought processes will circulate around those ideas. So while you were talking, that's what popped into my head.
So how are you using those thoughts or those ideas to now run your life?
Well, I read a book not long ago, and I actually was listening to Cliff Ravenscraft, is the podcast Answer Man. It's a podcast.
Hmm.
I have a long commute to work and a long commute home, so there are days where I'll just turn on a podcast and listen to it. And he had read the book by Gary Keller called The One Thing, and it sparked my curiosity. So I read the book, and of course, his application is can be for business or your personal life or whatever. But basically, narrowing your life down to what is your one thing. What is the one thing you want to accomplish in your life? Now, of course, you can have that one thing in your personal life, one thing in your recreational life, one thing in your work life. And so that's helped me, I guess, eliminate some of the thought clutter and helped me focus more on intentionally living my life instead of letting my life run me. I am trying more now to run my life. And so archery, within a couple of weeks after first picking up a bow, it was almost like I had, I don't know if you want to call it a revelation or an epiphany, but just something down deep within me said, you can do this.
Mm.
You were meant to do this for whatever reason.
Hmm.
And I just kind of was flippant about it for so many years, but this year I finally accepted the fact that archery is in my life for a reason and I need to take it a little more seriously. And you mentioned earlier honoring your body. I guess I need to really start honoring this thing called archery that is in my life for whatever reasons. So I am trying to change my lifestyle, I guess, to honor that more and to be more intentional in what I do and to realize that archery is my one thing and is probably my main thing. And then, of course, you have your one thing that you can focus on in other areas, but all roads in my life continuously go back to archery, if that makes any sense. I'm having a hard time. I feel like I'm having a hard time verbalizing this. So, nutrition, fitness, time scheduling, making myself practice, just everything like that is going back to archery because it's my one thing.
Hmm. No, I understand. How everything sort of brings it to one point with archery is before I started doing archery, I started working out, and then I was eating well. I mean, totally cleared up my diet. I don't want to call it diet. I just like ate clean
Mm-hmm.
and found that eliminating wheat, um, actually, I stopped having menstrual cramps. I know
Mm.
I'm saying this on the air and people are like, oh my God.
Oh.
But as a woman, women, holy moly, I wish my doctor told me when I was a teenager to stop eating wheat. Instead of she saying, well, no, you'll feel better in a couple of years.
Right.
Um, and I think it's something men should know about. I mean, I don't know, each woman's body is different with different foods, but I think wheat is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I eliminated uh, uh, pretty much toxic foods out of my body, and I just started just like dropping weight, and I was doing things to get in shape, and then archery kind of dropped into my life, and I was like looking back at it, it's almost like the archery started way before it actually started with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's also funny because people go, "Oh, you must love archery." I don't know if I actually love archery. That may sound really weird, but I love I, I'm in love with, or I was in love with aviation and flying airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
And that I was like addicted to. And archery, there's just something much, it's not a love affair, but it's, having a conversation with you and sharing with the world, those that want to listen, ideas, bringing people, you know, offering a class, and the bow and arrow is really just a tool for someone to be in the moment, be relaxed,
Mm-hmm.
transformation, gain confidence. It's like all these um, what was the word? I can't think of the word. But anyways, oh, what is the word? Oh, it'll come back to me in like 10 minutes. Well, anyways, so I create the space and people have transformations.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be subtle, or I have kids that are like, wow, thank you. Adults who are like, that was just awesome. And I also create an atmosphere that's extremely positive. And I occasionally will tell the parents before I run a class, like, look, um, I need you guys to not backseat coach with me. Because I actually teach in a format that's a little bit different than we're used to because we've grown up in a really negative society.
Mm-hmm.
So just sit back and watch. And, I'll tell, the kids will come in and I'll be getting ready to start. And we're doing sort of warm ups. And I say, I'll just kind of out of blue say, you guys are awesome. And, I'll put those little words in there. And not just the kids, the adults too. And they're like, wow. Occasionally they're like, wow, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I know. You just came in from school. Who has said that you're awesome today? And they'll be like, nobody. So you don't need anybody, so you can just say it to yourself. I'm just going off here. Where did I start with this?
We started with nutrition and now we're down a rabbit hole.
um, where archery, how archery is fitting into our lives,
Yes.
main points. Um, Yeah, it just kind of fell. It was almost like archery started with me before I actually started archery.
I get that.
Yeah. Um, I should have another question for you. Oh yeah, what do you do to help yourself stay in the moment when there's a lot of distractions, or maybe one distraction?
Oh, well, back in the day, really, I need to back up a little bit, I guess. I mentioned earlier about having a couple of surgeries last year. One of them was a rotator cuff repair, which put
Oh,
me out of
dang.
shooting for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that time off helped me gain some perspective on how seriously I wanted to take archery, I guess. It made me appreciate archery more than I think I had before then. I think I was taking it for granted for a long time, and I was taking it very seriously. And when I say take it seriously, I mean I think you need to take it seriously to a point if you want to perform well, but not take it so seriously or take yourself so seriously that it's not fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a while to find that balance, and I was pre-surgery. It was to the point where I was taking it too seriously, and it wasn't fun. And I was always focused on whether or not I'm making a good shot or what my score was and those types of things. And now that perspective has changed and my attitude has changed. And I just try to be in the moment and I try to enjoy the moment now and enjoy the process. And
Mm-hmm.
that helps me stay focused. And if I feel like I'm starting to wander off with my focus, like when I'm on the stake shooting, then I will literally walk myself through my shot process. And sometimes I will even talk to myself out loud. I'm attaching my release. I've knocked my arrow. I'm drawing my bow. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And that helps me stay focused. So doing that and just learning to enjoy the moment and live in the moment are probably the two biggest things for me right now.
So how long were you shooting in archery before you came to the realization to have fun?
Oh, about 8 or 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and at first I was having fun because I didn't know what I was doing. It was just fun. I was just plunking arrows down range and everything was great. And
Mm-hmm.
then the more I learned about archery then and the more technical aspect of it, um, I don't know, somewhere along the way I just kind of lost the joy that you can have from shooting a bow. And having that time off just has kind of brought me back full circle. And so now I'm able to combine the things that I've learned from the mental aspect of the game, the technical aspect of the game, and just have learned to just enjoy it more for what it is instead of being so serious with it all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the different guests that I've had on the show actually talk about that transformation, the where they went from taking it way too seriously to having fun. And these are people of all different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I know we talked a little earlier a little bit about books. I was wondering what great archery books have you read?
I really haven't read, I guess, archery specific books, but I have read some books that can apply to archery. Like I said, the one book, The One Thing by Gary Keller, which I think can apply across all types of lifestyles, activities, passions, however you want to describe that. The Bashams with their books, With Winning in Mind and Freedom Flight. And they talk
Mm-hmm.
about competitive shooting, but that's rifle shooting. But there are many applications that cross over to archery. One of my favorite books is Brain Gym by Gary Mack. Once again, he mentions archery a little bit, but he talks about working with athletes in different sports, baseball, golf. And so some of those ideas can definitely apply to archery. Um, uh, I actually taught myself how to shoot from reading a book called Idiot Proof Archery.
Nice.
And Bernie Pelleride is the one who wrote it. I just, back when I first started shooting, I didn't know. And we talked earlier about my husband was more into traditional archery, and I was shooting a compound, so he really couldn't help me very much. I went to the library and checked this book out and read it. Now, of course, there was a lot of technical stuff in there that I did not understand because I was just too new to the sport, but
Hmm.
I was able to pick up enough on the basics of shooting form and technique and that sort of thing from that book that it really helped me get off to a more successful start, I think, than I would have otherwise.
Mm. Oh, there you go, listeners. I just took half a page of notes, and I'll have all of my notes, resources, and websites on my show notes. And you can follow Julie on Twitter, the Bow Divas 01, and also Julgriggs, correct?
Correct.
And then Instagram is Bow Divas Podcast. That's BOWDIVAS PODCAST. And Julie's Instagram is JULGRIGGS. And the website is awesome website, www.bowdivas.com. Facebook, Bow Divas Podcast. And then Julie has her own Facebook, which is Julie Griggs. Wow. Let me see, Julie. What strategies do you have if your equipment breaks in a competition?
Panic and cry. No, actually, I mentioned a shooter's chair, shooter's stool earlier, and
You know, you know something? I want to back up on that. That is something that probably happens. People panic and cry because they don't know what to do because they haven't planned for it.
yep,
All right, now go on. I've interrupted you.
oh no, that's okay. Well, I mean, when I shoot, especially at the big competitions, the the women and men have different classes. Men shoot with men, women shoot with women. And of course, we women being emotional
By the way,
creatures.
that's because the women are better than the men.
That's right.
And actually, it's proven fact of that too.
Well, I've heard that. I've heard that, oh, women pick up on things faster than men because the information doesn't have to pass through as many filters as it does with a guy. And of course, I just think it's a whole ego issue. But anyway,
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I'm better than you.
right,
Ah, sorry.
exactly. But I have seen on the ranges where a lady archer has a breakdown, equipment breakdown, but may have an emotional breakdown at the same time because something's wrong with her equipment. But in my shooting chair, I carry glue, a set of Allen wrenches, D-loop material, just little things like that. That if I need to fix a vein that's come loose or something like that, I carry extra knocks, extra points. But it's such a family community, the archery world is, that even if you don't have something with you
Hmm.
that you need to make a repair, uh, somebody out there on one of the ranges more than likely will have something that you need. And so you can hunt them down and get them to help you or borrow whatever it is that you might need. And then
Hunt them down. You have a bow and arrow. I like it. I mean, go on.
well, and actually, our good friend Bob,
Uh-huh.
he lives not far from us, and one time we were at a state tournament, an ASA state tournament. This might have been the same one where the thunderstorm rolled in. I don't remember, but freakishly, my son's bow fell over and snapped my stabilizer in two.
Oh.
Yeah, and I shoot a long bar, so it snapped this thing in two. I had no front stabilizer, and Bob took off one of his stabilizers and let me use it as a front bar, and he shot without one. So that's just a good example of how giving and how selfless archers can be. They'll give up whatever they need to help out their fellow archer. So if you have a breakdown, you need to make a repair. Most of the time, they're not going to bat an eye to loan you whatever tool it is you need or whatever material it is you need to effect that repair. And at the
Mhm.
bigger tournaments, there are vendors. Lancaster Archery is a perfect example. They have a huge trailer that I think they carry every archery item imaginable. So you can call a breakdown and you get so much time. So you could run back to Lancaster, and if you need your bow pressed or whatever it is that you need to make that repair, there's always going to be somebody or some vendor available that's going to be able to help you out.
That's awesome.
It's pretty nice.
It's such a family sport.
It is.
Example, like what got you into this amazing sport of archery?
What got me into it?
Hmm.
My husband.
He sounds like a nice guy.
He can be. He really is, but
Should I delete out that part?
I'll leave it in.
Okay.
It That's kind of one of our inside jokes with us and our friends is I'm mean to him and that sort of thing. But um, really, he is a super super great guy, and he's so patient and puts up with me and spoils me rotten, especially when it comes to archery. And but yeah, he is the person that got me started in archery.
Oh, that's wonderful. W- What were your earlier challenges?
Well, not knowing what I was doing, being completely clueless. Um, that was probably my biggest challenge, and not knowing anyone, not having someone who could mentor me and help me along the
Mm,
way. That didn't come until a while later. Like I said, my husband could help me to a certain point, but he wasn't familiar with compound archery either. So, like reading the book and getting on archery forums and reading information shared there uh, is is what I did at first. So really, not having that a good, solid, reliable mentor and source of information was probably
yeah.
the biggest challenge to begin with. And then once you get into it and you realize that you could do this a little bit, then you're, at least in my case, my head would get in the way. So that was a challenge is trying to take my head out of the game, my ego out of the game, um, that sort of thing. I could probably rattle on and on about all of the other challenges, but that's probably the earliest challenge is what I've just touched on.
So you probably recommend people finding a coach if there isn't one in the area, because sometimes you can pick up, I've heard, um, bad habits that a couple of years later, like, oh, that wasn't good to be shooting like that, or that bow was too wrong size for me and I've developed an injury, or I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly, absolutely. What you just said is definitely what I would recommend, like to a new shooter, would be
Hmm.
to find a coach, a reputable coach, or a friend that you know and trust who is knowledgeable about equipment and archery and stick with them because, once again, archers are probably the most helpful people in the world and they love nothing more than to be helpful to a new archer. But you need to stick with a person who you believe is extremely knowledgeable and knows what they're saying because you have a lot of well-meaning people out there who are trying to help you, but they might be helping you in the wrong way and not even on purpose. They just don't know any better.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely find a coach or a mentor that you trust and stick with them. You can I use the term smile and nod. You have a lot of well-meaning people who are trying to help you. Just smile and nod at them and say thank you for their help, but then go and do what you know that you need to do with the person that you
Smile,
trust.
smile and nod and stay away from the equipment. Because people like, oh, let me just take care with your bow.
Oh, yeah,
Well-meaning, not try to, as a competitor to screw, mess things up.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I was talking to some men about this. I was at the Olympic Training Center with some of the coaches, and they're like, "Oh my God, it happens to us men. Men come over to mess up with, not, um, not really mess with, but tinker with their bows, being well-meaning."
Mhm.
I'm like, men do this to men too? That's just dang.
Men overtinker and they overthink when it comes
Hmm.
to this kind of stuff. And I think that's just their nature and it drives me crazy. And my husband is a great example. He tinkers and thinks about stuff and asks me my opinion about the same thing 15 different times and I give him the same answer every time. Just leave it alone. It's fine. You don't have to tweak it. Just stop. Today, as a matter of fact, he called me and he said he has a couple of different bows that he shoots and he says, "I'm thinking about switching back to my other bow." And my question was, why? You're shooting this bow perfectly fine. Why? I don't get it. Just if it's not broke, don't fix it. Just leave it alone. But yeah, I mean, men they can't leave it alone. They have to mess with a bow and they have to tinker with it.
Hmm.
And I know that's an overgeneralization. There probably are men out there, I would assume, that don't do that, but a lot of the guys I know have to tinker. They can't leave it alone.
I think some women do that too, and I think it's a cultural thing because I remember in one of the presentations that the Olympic Coach Lee had said is that in the United States, um, everybody wants more gadgets. He's like, you don't need all of those gadgets that are out there.
Mhm.
Um, and it was interesting hearing that from him. Um, but he's, his culture, his background, he's from Korea. And just great guy. I really, really like Coach Lee. Um, I thought it was crazy because he knows who I am. I, I, I guess it's a good thing.
This is
I was like,
who we're talking about. He's like a celebrity in the archery community.
I know. It is who we're talking about. I went to I don't remember which time I was at the Olympic Training Center, but I hadn't been there in about 14 months, and I showed up and for I think it was either the Coach Observer program or something, but he saw me in the cafeteria and he's like, "Lucy," and he gave me a hug, and I'm like, "Wow, you know who I am?" Well, of course, they probably like look to see who's showing up and blah blah blah, and totally ready for everybody, but I just felt like he knows who I am. I was just
Mhm.
like, God, this is just what a cool guy.
Right.
It's the head coach of the United States knows who I am. Okay.
That's right. Little ego boost there. But it attests to his character too when someone who is in that position
Mhm.
knows who someone is and takes the time to talk to them and make them feel welcome. To me, that's a statement of their character that they truly care about the people in the sport and they care about what happens.
Well, I also worked with Mrs. Lee. Um, she was one of the coaches who was coaching me during my level 3 and level 4 transitional course. When it wasn't called level 3 and level 4, it's called something else.
Hmm.
Um, and when I came back, like again a couple of years later, she totally recognized and knew me. I was like, wow,
Hmm.
just great people in this industry.
Hmm. I agree.
What do you think about when you're shooting on the range?
I try to just stay in the moment and just focus on my shot process. Sometimes we as archers, or myself in particular, anyway, once I'm at full draw and I'm aiming, my head will say, "Oh crap! Oh crap! Oh crap! Something's wrong." And
Hmm.
I am terrible about not letting down in that situation. So that's one thing I'm working on. But I say that to illustrate me saying I just try to stay focused on my process. And I mentioned that earlier and described that a little bit about, okay, I'm drawing my bow, my bow hand is relaxed. My arm is neutral, and I just have that dialogue going on with myself, so that those other thoughts don't intrude, so that I can stay focused on making a good solid shot.
I had one guest talk about singing the Teapot song in their head, but with the lyrics, changing the lyrics a little bit to the National Training System.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I was just like, I love it.
That's a
It's
good
all so
idea.
good.
Yeah. Now I have sung to myself more so in indoor competition than
Hmm.
on 3D, because 3D one shot and then you're done for a few minutes. Whereas
Yeah.
indoor, if you're shooting 5 spot and or 3 spot, I have sung songs to myself before to help my stay focused or relaxed. But right now, what has helped me the most is to just have that dialogue going in my head, talking to myself, so that other thoughts cannot intrude.
So is that basically the mental trick that you have to keep yourself focused?
Yes. Yes. So far, I think that's worked the best for me.
Do you have any mental tricks that you offer your archery clients to help them keep focus?
Well, um,
Actually, let's back up on the last question that
okay.
I didn't really do as a question, because I'm reading here you had a little bit more stuff to share with us.
Okay.
And I'm not letting you off the hook.
Uh-oh.
So, what mental tricks do you have to keep yourself focused?
Well, like I said, just having that dialogue, and the new me, the new
The new
Archer
you.
Julie, is again just staying in the moment, enjoying the moment, enjoying the people I'm shooting with.
Hmm.
Now I know that helps me stay relaxed and helps me enjoy it, but not taking it so seriously, I think, has changed my mental focus. And because I'm not expending all of my mental energy on trying to stay focused the whole time, I can step in and out of it. So I live in the moment with the people I'm shooting with, and then I step up to the stake, and then I'm living in that moment and going through that inner dialogue that I have, those steps in my shooting process, and then I step back out of it, and then I'm back into enjoying the moment with the people I'm shooting with, and it doesn't expend as much mental energy. It's not as mentally exhausting as it used to be when I was trying to stay 100% focused the entire time on shooting, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm going to read the sentence that you sent me,
Okay.
because I really like it, and because you had to be away from archery for a little while because of in surgery,
Mhm.
and you now have more of a gratitude of attitude and greater appreciation
Mhm.
for just being there, being able to shoot. And then you said, quote, also I have learned to care but not care, meaning that archery is important to me and my performance is important to me, but that it isn't the end of the world if I perform poorly on any given day.
Right.
That kind of, I just wanted to add that because it kind of wraps around what you were just saying.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you wrote or read that, because honestly, I had kind of forgotten that I wrote it, but I have said it many times in
Hmm.
conversations. And you do, in my opinion, you have to care about it. And that goes back to taking it seriously. You have to take it seriously, but it's not the end of the world if you shoot bad or if you have a bad day. That doesn't change who you are as a person. You're still a good person at the end of the day. You just had a bad shooting day. You I mean, archery is my world. It's what I do, it's my thing,
Hmm.
but it's not so much so that my world is going to unravel if I have a bad day shooting, or if I can't shoot for a few days, because I had to do without it for so long. The phrase absence makes the heart grow fond.
Hmm.
I think sometimes you have to step away from something because you take it for granted, and when you step away from it, it helps you develop a whole new appreciation for it. But also help, as far as archery goes, help me understand that my life was not going to end if I could never shoot again, or if I shot
Yeah.
bad or whatever. So once again, that's one of those things that I'm having a hard time verbalizing. So hopefully I'm kind of describing it accurately or adequately.
I think you are. I think you're coming through very, very clearly.
Okay, good.
This is really, really good. And it's something I think maybe challenging to verbalize because I know you've been involved in the schools system for 20, I forgot how many years,
22.
22.
Uh-huh.
Um, and, people like yourself probably very aware that we are not trained in our school systems to deal with upsets. And also with victories, that both are okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're so used to taking a test, getting the red pen, and looking at everything that's in red. Maybe we should have made it so everything that was correct was in red, and what was wrong in black.
Mm-hmm.
No, then it wouldn't be black and white, would it?
It'd be black and red.
Black and red.
Unless you're an elementary teacher like me, and then it would be a rainbow of colors because,
Oh, I love it. And then you're colorblind. I was like, I don't know.
yeah.
That's a purple, I think. Um, yeah, you're a NASP instructor, National Archery in the Schools program.
Mhm.
Do you have any mental tricks that you offer your archery clients to help them keep focused? Or did I ask you that already?
Yeah, and I think I kind of rattled off onto a tangent about it, but as far as NASP goes, working with the kids on that, my focus with them as
It
far
doesn't have to be totally NASP, it's just people that you might work with.
um oh yeah, and I think I started to answer that, and then we kind of got off track a little bit. Um, my advice to them, because we're all individuals, and so what works for me may not necessarily work for the next person. So I'm going to preface that by saying that um, people have to figure out what works for them, and I would suggest doing what I'm doing right now, which is going through that shot process, having that mental dialogue. Okay, do this, do this, do this, do this. That mental checklist that I'm doing, which keeps those outside thoughts from coming in that could distract me from what I'm doing. But I would also tell them that may not work for you. So you're going to have to play with it for a little bit and develop a system that is more appropriate for your type of mindset, your type of mental processing. Because I'm not a cookie cutter type person. There are some basics that I think can apply across the board, but then you have to tweak it to suit you individually. So I would probably start there with somebody, but definitely go back and emphasize. But you are an individual. You have to figure out what works for you. Um, I don't know. I that's probably what I would say.
Hmm. Do you think there's a certain level of archer where that training should start? The training, i.e., being how teaching people the mental tricks on how to stay focused.
Yeah, I think so. At first, I don't know that it would be all that successful, but I don't know because I might just be,
Should
grasping at
be a
straws here. But I think,
beginner level, intermediate level, advanced level
yeah,
when you start
because
working with mental.
when you're a beginner, I think you're just so self-conscious
Hmm.
and very self-aware, and I think people worry about what other people are thinking. But then I think it has to get to a certain point where they get beyond that. They that becomes a comfort zone for them, and then I think as that progresses, then the mental aspect of the game can progress with it as well, and start introducing mental tricks and suggestions to people, and become more in depth with it, I suppose, as their ability and their archery knowledge increases.
Hmm.
You don't want to overload a brand new archer who is just learn.
They're already overloaded.
Right, exactly. That's where I was going to
ISO
go with that.
was.
Right. And so I think it has to be a progression. And so start off baby steps and then move along with them as they
Mhm.
grow. But I think you have to know your archers on an individual basis too and understand their personalities and what you think they're capable of at different stages of this process.
Mm.
And I guess I'm channeling how I work with my students as a teacher in the classroom, and I would carry that over to my archery instruction. I I am a NASP instructor, but I was only able to work with kiddos for a year at my school before I went to a different school district. So I'm not, very expert at what we're talking about, and I admit it. I think my rambling has pretty much illustrated that.
No, it's good. It's because you're already a teacher and it's teaching people,
Hmm.
whether it's in um, a school with cement walls or outside where it's
Right.
nice out. Oh wow, Julie, the time has just flown by and you've been an amazing
Well,
guest.
thank you. I have had the most fun with this. I'm so honored to do it, and I've loved chatting with you and getting to know you, and I feel like I have a new friend.
I do too. Thank you. I feel like I just want to come out there and shoot with you guys.
We might have to do that sometime. Who knows what life will
Or
bring?
we'll get out together and have I don't know, pizza with all the nasty stuff on it.
Wait a minute now. Hold on. Is this a
with, with
test?
with a rum and coke. Oh wait, what did we talk about earlier?
Right, exactly.
Yes, we have made a pact
Yeah, that's right.
that, and uh, we will also, if you're interested, we'll figure out what to say on Facebook, but we'll make it public too, what we're doing.
Okay,
Um, awesome. High five.
right on.
Could you leave us with a pearl of wisdom or inspiration?
You really asked the wrong person for this. I, just
Is your husband there?
say that again.
Is your husband there?
He's at work.
Oh, oh, good. You're not off the hook.
No, I think my pearl of wisdom would be to just have fun. Just appreciate it, appreciate the moment. Don't take anything for granted. Um, just enjoy it for what it is and try not to make it anything that it isn't. Just have fun.
Oh, and I want to, the fun part. Got to remember to have fun.
Right. Because it really, why do it if you're not going to have fun with it? There's no point. There's just no point. So, yep, just enjoy it.
Well, sometimes people create the lack of fun because of their intensity of, I got to be good. Oh, I'm upset because I missed a 10, I got a 9.
Yeah.
Or I took out the tree and, well, we'll have a little fun and paint a little bullseye around your arrow.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And you just hit the nail on the head because I think that's the word I've been struggling to find during this conversation is the
Mhm.
intensity and the feeling that you have to do well or be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be intense because once you get that enjoyment and you get that fun incorporated, I think the success and the better performance is going to follow.
Mhm.
So yeah, you said it perfectly with the word intensity.
I, it's really interesting. Some of these elite, other elite archers that I've talked to have said when they were told to go to, one was going to the Paralympics and was just told to actually have fun. Because it was when compound bows were just introduced. It was all kind of a new thing.
Hmm.
And he like took names, made world records, got the gold, and he realized, it's about having fun.
Yes.
Um, And if he hadn't been in that state of mind, he probably, I don't know, would have done as well.
Right.
Julie, I meant to ask you just a little earlier, just to wrap this up. How would you describe what it feels like to shoot an arrow? And this would be to someone who has never shot before.
Harmony, bliss, peace, excitement. For me, it's almost indescribable because it's such a feeling, and it's a feeling that's difficult for me to describe. But when I shoot an arrow, those are the things that I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably how I would describe it to someone. Now, of course, there are the bad days. For me, archery is a love-hate relationship, so I could use some negative words there too, but I'll stay on the positive side today. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
just I don't know, harmony with your equipment, and just utter joy, utter happiness. It's just, like I said, it's my life, and it's what I do, and those are the things that I feel when I'm shooting.
Oh, Julie, thank you for being on the show.
Lucy, thank you for having me. It's been a wonderful experience.
Thank you so much. And all of the links, resources from this podcast will be posted on our show notes on theflyingarcher.com. And if you possibly go over to the bowdivas.com, you may also hear this same podcast. Yay!
Yay!
Oh, that was so much fun.
I had a great time. I'm so happy and thankful that you asked me to do this.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I sincerely mean it. I feel like I have a new friend now.
Me too.
Good.
And it's so cool because what we just shared was not a private conversation.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
But if we had just sat down like at a bar or somewhere where people meet each other, we wouldn't have just had this conversation being like the complete strangers that we were an hour and a half ago.
Exactly. It would have been superficial.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, no. And like I said, it's like doing this with you today is just like sitting around with the rest of my archery buddies and having a conversation about archery. It's been wonderful. It's been a really good experience. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I will know if this is recorded once we hang up.
I hope it is.
I hope so too.
Yeah, I always have that fear myself when we're recording. Okay, I hope this is recording. It says it is, but I won't know until I get it home and listen to it.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
If you could email me some pictures, and I will let you know when it's going to be released, and then just let all your social media networks just know that, hey, on this date, it's all about me, Julie.
I will be happy to. Because, really deep down, we're all very narcissistic people. So
I know. I exactly. I talked a little bit too.
no, that's fine. I think that really when I'm listening to a podcast, I love the interaction and the sharing back and forth like that, as opposed to it just being one-sided. I think it's so much more dynamic that way. So I'm glad you did.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we got to get all the ladies on my show.
Oh, yes. If you can handle it. Now, Annalicia is the clown of the group. There's no telling what she will say.
Oh, bring it on. Oh, don't tell her that though.
I won't. It'll be between you and me.
I can't remember which one, but one of them said yes, and I sent her my calendar, but I haven't heard back.
Okay, that's probably Annalicia, I think. So
okay.
I'll remind her.
Yeah, and you'd offered to be on your show. That'd be really cool.
That would be wonderful. Let's let's make that happen sometime very soon.
Okay. Because what I'd like to do is, it would be great to have all of you ladies individually, and then have me on your show. 'Cause then we'd already kind of know each other,
Hmm. Yeah.
or maybe that would be bad.
No, no, I think that would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. Because I don't know if
Awesome.
you've listened to us or not, but we're kind of goofy and we're very laid back, and um, we try to have some humor infused in it and just not have it extremely formal. And I think once we all get to know each other like that, I think the chemistry will be there and it will be fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's almost like a pre. It's like us warming up
Mhm.
to the Bo Divas.
Right. So yeah, no, I think that's great, Lucy. Yeah, I like your suggestion.
Instead of being off-sided, like you'd know me and the other two wouldn't. Like, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Um, well, cool. Let me thank you so much, and I hope it recorded.
Shoot me a message if it didn't.
I will. I'll let you know either way.
Okay.
Well, have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so
Cool.
much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome. Take care.
You too.
Bye
Bye.
bye.